So it all started the day I was born.
Yeah, I told you I wanted to.
Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jackie, this is Las Gordas, and we're doing another mukbang today. I'm here with my sister.
She said.
And today we're going to be eating some fruit because we're trying to be healthy. We have some pineapple, jicama, cantaloupe. Is this?
I don't know, melon.
Melon, I don't know. And then we have some watermelon, and here we have strawberries, kiwis, mango, and some cherries. And of course we have some water, and we are not forgetting the tahini. I didn't post at all last month because the Black Lives Matter movement was happening, and I didn't want to take away any attention from what was going on. I decided to do my part on my TikTok account and just post a lot about police brutality and events that were happening in protests, and I just felt like it wasn't the time for me to be doing YouTube videos. And so now that I've spent more time on TikTok spreading more awareness about protests and about how we can be helping towards the Black Lives Matter movement, I feel more comfortable hopping back onto my YouTube channel and starting to make content here again. A lot of my new followers keep asking me the same questions, like regarding my scar, and there's been a lot of people in my personal life that I haven't had the chance to interact with since I've received this scar. This is a really special week for me because this week marks the 2-year anniversary since I got this scar, and enough time has passed for me that it's no longer difficult for me to talk about it. So I felt like it would be a really appropriate time for me to actually sit down and tell you all the story about how I gained this scar. So Gisella's gonna be telling part of the story with me because I feel like her perspective is necessary. For a long time I just knew what I was feeling, and I wasn't really taking into account what my family was experiencing along the time, because I was like, whatever, it's not happening to you all, it's happening to me. Now that it's been plenty of time, I'm like, oh, would have been nice to know how they were feeling. It would have helped me a lot. That's why she's here, and also so she can help me eat this ridiculous amount of fruit that we cut up. The main point of me doing this video is to bring awareness that people could be struggling with serious health conditions and you might not even know. It's really important for us to be really cautious of the way that we speak around certain people. Especially like for me, I got bullied a lot because I was never a very good runner. I've never been really great at cardio, and people always attributed that to me being lazy. And honestly, I did that too. I always just believed that I was really out of shape, and that's why I wasn't a good runner. That's why I couldn't keep up in cardio. That's why I wasn't good at sports. Going through what I've been through the past 2 years just really taught me to be really kind to my body and to be really kind towards others, because you really don't know why somebody might not be able to do something, and you can't ever assume that somebody is healthy or somebody is not healthy based on just appearances. I just want to get that out of the way before I start talking about my story. So before we get into the story, let's dig into this fruit real quick. I bought 2 different kinds of kiwis. So this is supposed to be like a yellow kiwi, but it's not. You can see like it's green, and it's supposed to be tastier. So let's see.
Is it the gross one?
You already tried it?
Mm-hmm. I tried a little bit of everything.
It doesn't taste like anything. Okay, this is the regular kiwi. They're really ripe for some reason, like they're new. Okay.
Is that the nasty one?
This is nasty.
Yeah, dude.
This is so gross. Why does it taste like
You
that?
swallow it still. Yeah, it tastes like perfume. Yeah.
Okay, so now that I've had time to munch on everything, oh, pineapple.
It's
That's
good.
pineapple is good.
The only thing that isn't good is that other kiwi.
I think my favorite thing on this plate, mango, pineapple. I haven't tried the watermelon yet.
You haven't even tried the jicama or the melon.
I will. I'll get to it. We have a long ass story. I'm gonna get to it. So it all started the day I was born.
Yeah, I told you I wanted to.
Technically, this story starts the day I was born, but that's a really long story. So we're gonna start 2 years ago, right before I was gonna graduate from college. Okay, this story starts spring 2017. I was about to graduate from college, so I was a senior. Throughout college, I couldn't really decide what I wanted to do, so I ended up triple majoring. I majored in international studies, sociology, and Spanish. And as part of my international studies degree, you're supposed to study abroad because, like, how can you major in international studies and not been to any other countries except for the US? So I had postponed my study abroad until my senior year. What a lot of people did is that they saved their study abroad to the term after we graduated, because that way you got kind of like a vacation after you graduate and you get to be in another country, and it's super cheap to travel if you're studying abroad. That was my plan. I was gonna walk in June, and then in the fall I was gonna go to Peru and I was gonna spend a whole semester there, and then by the time I got back I would have graduated and everything would have been fine. I applied to my program that I wanted to go to in April, and so I got in, I applied for a scholarship, I was doing like all the paperwork, I got added to like the group, I got introduced to everybody else who was doing that program with me, I knew the date that we were leaving and everything. And before you do all of that, you have to sign a bunch of health forms because like they need to know that you're healthy enough to travel. I was about to buy my flight, and I talked to the advisor and she's like, listen, I would advise for you to go get your physical before you buy this flight because you never know. And I was like, okay, fine. I went and I signed up for a physical. And when I went to the physical, my doctor was really booked, so I had to go to the nurse practitioner at my clinic. And I'd seen her once or twice before, but not too many times. And I was annoyed, but I just needed to get this physical in. There was deals on the flight that I wanted, and I just like wanted to rush this whole thing. So I go into the physical. She starts listening to my heart, and she stops, and she's like, has anybody ever told you that you have a heart murmur? And I was like, no, nobody's ever told me I have a heart murmur. And she's like, are you sure? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure. No doctor has ever told me that my heart sounds weird. And she was just like, well, this sounds like a really strong murmur, and I don't feel comfortable signing this form until you go see a cardiologist. At that moment, it really didn't register what she was telling me, because I was just like, I had my forms, I needed to buy this flight, and I was just so annoyed. I was so upset with her because I'm like, you're gonna make me wait an additional week so I could go see this cardiologist just to get these forms signed. I need to buy this flight. And she was like, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna sign these forms until you get the okay from the cardiologist. So I called the cardiologist and they fit me into the next week. It's the next week. So I get all my paperwork, I put them in a folder. I contacted the advisor and I was like, hey, like they want me to go see a cardiologist. I can't buy the flight just yet. And she was like, it's okay, like your health is what comes first, like go get that checked out. And as soon as that doctor signs off, just let me know and I'll help you book your flights. Because like by that point, the deal was gone. I went to see the cardiologist, had all my paperwork with me. And then the cardiologist is listening to my heart and he said, yep, you definitely have a heart murmur. We're gonna give you an EKG, which is basically when like they put a bunch of like wires all over, like here, and on your legs. It's like measuring your heartbeat. It like draws it out for you. And then after that, they wanted to give me an echocardiogram, which is basically an ultrasound of your heart. I was annoyed because I thought he was just gonna listen to my heart and then tell me what he thought. I had to go through the ultrasound, they did the EKG. The echocardiogram sucks. It hurts. Like you wouldn't think an ultrasound hurts, but they're like digging it into you. And it takes a long time. It takes like an hour.
You just start cramping up.
And you just start cramping up. And like the person who was doing my echocardiogram was actually a professor at the university. He was just like, oh, so why are you here? And I was like, I just had to have a physical, and then the doctor got scared and they wanted me to come here. I'm trying to study abroad, so hopefully like this turns out really well and I'll just sign the papers and I can study abroad. He's like, oh, that's cool. Like, yeah. Literally 10 minutes later, he calls somebody else in and he's like showing them my heart, and they're both like, oh, like they're whispering and they're like, yeah, this is a beautiful image. And I was like, oh my god, my heart is so healthy. They're like so impressed. I'm like, yes, they're gonna sign my paper. Like literally they were just like amazed by it. And I was like, oh my god, that means I have a really healthy heart. I'm like, oh, okay. So I get dressed again and I go back into the waiting room, and then the cardiologist calls me back in. I had my papers in my hand and I was just like waiting for the doctor, like Elmo, because I felt really good because the two other docters were like in awe of what my heart looked like. I was like, oh, this is a good sign. So the doctor walks in and he walks in with the nurse. This nurse had been being really, really nice to me. She just like walks in and she just stands right next to me. And so the doctor said, what I'm about to tell you, I just need you to know that there is nothing that you did that caused this. I don't, this is going to be really heavy for you to hear. And I don't want your mind to go to, tahini. And I don't want your mind to go to, this is your fault. This is not your fault. This is just something that happened. And I was like,
what?
I was just looking at my papers. I was like, okay, get to it. Like, sign my papers. I need to get this flight. And he was just like, you have something that's called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. This is a genetic heart condition that is causing your heart to beat as if you were always running. And I was just like, okay. And he was just like, do you have questions? And I said, so are you going to sign my papers? And he was just like, honey, I don't think you understand what I'm saying. And I was like, no, I don't.
I don't know why I'm laughing. It's just like, you're so dumb.
I know. Again, I was like, no, I mean, are you telling me that you're not going to sign my papers? And he was just like, I don't think me signing that paper should be your biggest worry right now. And I was like, of course it's my big worry. I'm supposed to get a flight. I'm supposed to study abroad in like 2 months. What are you saying? And he was just like, how have you been feeling recently? Have you been feeling tired? And I was like, yeah. He's like, how do you feel when you walk around? I'm like, I get really tired, but I'm just like super out of shape. That's why. He's like, how about run? Do you run? I was like, no, because I feel like I'm gonna pass out if I run. And he was just like, why do you think that is? I'm like, well, I have asthma and I'm really fat. I don't work out on a regular basis. I eat really terrible. And he was like, yeah, but that's still not normal for a 21-year-old. There's a lot of 21-year-olds that do exactly the same thing you do, and they're still able to run. I'm really trying to like make memory for this because it was really hard for me to focus on what he was saying, because I just need you all to understand, I was in shock because I was so disappointed that I wasn't gonna get to go to Peru. I know like now it's funny to think back at it, but my world was destroyed because I had planned this for over a year. Like my heart was set on this trip. I had already talked to the people that I was gonna go with. I had picked a girl that I was gonna room with. I was set. And so like the doctor's talking to me and like my mind is just like all of my plans and all of Peru, that was racing through my mind. He kept talking, like he just kept explaining what the condition was. I was in a completely different world. And like the nurse is like looking at me and she like sees that I'm worried about the papers. And so she like takes the papers out of my hand because she sees that I'm just like, I'm literally just looking at the papers and like nodding to what he's saying. And so she takes the papers from me and she's like, honey, no, you're not gonna get to go on this trip. And I was like, but why? What does me having this condition have to do with me being on this trip? And they're like, we looked at your oxygen levels. We looked at your heart rate when you're resting. You are in some serious trouble right now. If you go to Peru, especially with the altitude that Peru has, you will die. And I was just like, what does altitude have to do with heart rate? Like that makes no sense. And they're like, the oxygen levels. If you were going to like Mexico City, we'd say, go ahead. But you are going to Peru, especially the Machu Picchu area, which is really high altitude. You can't go. We can't sign these papers. We see that this is where your mind is right now, and we know that this is a lot for you to take in one go. So we're gonna give you some time to process what we just said. Go ahead and talk to your advisor, and you have to let them know that you can no longer go. Get all that stuff ready. Come back, and please bring your family with you so we can explain to your parents what happened.
Wow. She's amazing.
The nurse?
Yeah.
Oh.
She's really good.
She
said, snap out of it. They were really good about it.
She snapped me out of it because I was like...
Yeah, when you really should have been more worried about yourself than the trip.
But like...
Yeah. I understand.
At that point I was crying. I was bawling because the trip. Like I wasn't crying because like... I was crying because I wasn't going to be able to go on the trip. They made an appointment for literally like the next week. I think I went in on a Monday. They made an appointment for the following Monday. And yeah, that was when I first got the news. Like the last week of May, 2 weeks before graduation. And everybody was coming for my graduation because I was like the first one to graduate for bachelor's. So it was like a really, really big deal for my family. Everybody's coming. I was having family come from California.
Mexico.
My grandparents were coming from Mexico. Like it was a really big deal. And so I had just gotten this huge news. Oh, the other big thing that the doctor said is this is genetic. So the reason why they wanted my family to be there is because now my entire family needed to be tested because they needed to know if it was passed down from my parents or if it was a genetic mutation. I needed to tell my parents as soon as possible. So I got home and the first thing I did is I called my mom. Thank God she didn't pick up. So when my mom didn't pick up the phone, I was like, I gotta come. This is a giant piece of melon.
So you can take it back?
I'll take it back. It's so juicy. So anyway, so I'm about to call my dad and I'm just like, do I tell him everything? Freaking out. I'm trying to like not just like completely break down. He comes, just tell him you can't go to Peru. Don't even mention what the doctor said. Don't freak them out yet. And as soon as I heard my dad's voice, I just started crying. I just started crying uncontrollably. And my dad was just like, what's going on? Are you okay? Did you get in a car accident? Are you okay? And I was just like, no, I'm not okay. I can't go to Peru. And he was and he was just like, he was like, what? He was like, what do you mean you can't go to Peru? Like, I thought you said you were about to buy the flight. Like, what's going on? I was like, yeah, I had to go to the cardiologist and the cardiologist told me I can't go. And he was just like, why? What happened? What's going on? And then I just started crying all over again. And I was just like, the doctor says that I have something's wrong with my heart and I can't go because if I go, I might die. And now everybody needs to come and get tested because everybody might have this. And my dad just like was quiet. He took like a long pause. It might have just been like 30 seconds, but it felt like an eternal pause. He was just like, okay, well, how do you feel right now? I'm just really sad. Like, I wanted to go to Peru and I don't understand why this has happened. I've been feeling fine my whole life and now they're telling me that I'm really sick. Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. What do I do? Do I tell mom? Like, do we cancel my graduation? Like, what's gonna happen? And he was just like, your graduation is in 2 weeks. Go to the doctor again next week. Now that you'll be calm by then, ask a lot of questions. And then after the graduation, we'll all go in together and we'll ask the doctor all of these questions. And I was like, okay, do you want me to call mom and tell her what happened? And he was like, no, don't tell your mom because your mom's gonna tell everybody else. And then your whole graduation, you're just gonna be receiving a bunch of questions from all of our family. Like, I know that this is hard and I know that I'm asking a lot from you, but for your sake, let's just keep this between us. And if you need to talk to me about it more, call me whenever, because I know that this must be really hard for you right now. We left it at that. He hung up. I cried some more. I went to sleep. And then the next day I told my roommates what happened. So now you see my initial shock and like I didn't really understand what was happening. I was just worried that I wasn't gonna get to study abroad. So for the second time I went to see this particular doctor, I was in a much better like mental base. Like I mean, I was still a wreck, but I was more focused on like, okay, explain to me what is actually going on. What does this actually mean? And so like the doctor, the way that he explained it, because he had scared me so bad last time, like this time he didn't want me to have the same reaction. Now I feel like he really sugarcoated what was actually happening, but also I feel like he still didn't understand the gravity of my situation. He was just like, this is general overall, like how this condition is, and I don't think you should be that worried. So basically like what my heart condition is, the way that he explained it, I don't know if you're a big sports fan, but sometimes on the field an athlete will just drop and they'll be dead and nobody will know what happened. A lot of the times it's because they have the condition that you have and they have overexerted themselves and their hearts gave out. Are you an athlete? And I just started laughing and I was like, no. And he's like, okay, since you're not an athlete, this isn't going to impact your life that much. If you were an athlete, your career would be over with this. But since you're not, don't worry. It's not going to affect your day-to-day life that much. It's just that right now, we don't know what's going on. So we can't allow you to travel because we don't understand how serious your condition is. So we're putting your life first. And I was like, okay. He's like, we have to get more tests done because again, we don't understand. He's like, but in the meantime, I don't want you to overexert yourself. So don't do things that are going to make you too tired. So don't go jogging, don't go weight train, don't do any of that because we don't know how your body's going to react to that. I haven't been feeling horrible. Like I've been feeling pretty normal. And he was just like, this is a condition that gets worse with age. So maybe when you were younger, you might have had like some signs that something was wrong and you just never caught it. But the older that you get, your heart gets more and more tired because this condition is working your heart over time. So obviously with age, your heart is going to give out more. That's why maybe before you never had something scary happen to you, but now it's happening to you. You should be fine. Just don't do anything that's going to overexert. And when your family comes in here, we'll decide like our next course of action. And I was like, bet, that's fine. So it's graduation week. My family has arrived. Trying to show them Oregon because some of them hadn't been to Oregon ever. There's not much to see in Oregon. It's a very outdoorsy place. So we decided to go take them to the falls because they wanted to see the waterfalls. Now, I didn't think much of this because we'd been to those waterfalls a bunch of times. I've done that hike a bunch of times, so I wasn't even worried about it. I was just excited that they were all here. Now, this is called Silver Falls. You can Google it. They're like really pretty. When you get to the falls, you have to climb down a ton of stairs and you get to walk under them and go around and take pictures. Like you can choose to keep going down the trail. It's like an 8-mile long trail, but I was like, they're not gonna want to do that. We're just gonna go down, take pictures, and then come back up. So we went down, nothing was wrong. It was pretty. We took a ton of pictures and then we all decided to go back up. And as we were walking up the stairs, I started to feel really tired. My heart was racing and I was so tired. You know when you're like walking up the stairs and you don't want people to know that you're winded and you're just like feel like you're trying to like breathe really quietly, but like you're dying. Yeah. You're like
yeah.
that was me. We were walking up and I was just like, okay, you're good. You're good. And I was just like falling behind everybody. I was just like letting them all go ahead of me. And I was like, you can do this, 2 more flights of stairs. And I got to like the bottom. I was just like 1 flight of stairs away. And I stood there and I felt like I was gonna pass out. But at that point, like my entire family was already all the way up. And I was like, if I'm gonna pass out, I need to make it at least all the way up there, or else I'm gonna be down here in the dirt and nobody's gonna know that I'm just like passed out. So I was like, okay. And I forced myself to climb those stairs. And the second I got up the stairs, I felt my blood pressure drop. And I just felt so cold. I felt so cold. And my vision started to get spotty. And I was like, and then I felt people grabbing me. And I heard my sister, and she was freaking out.
Because I thought you were dying.
She was freaking out. She was like, Jenny! And I was just like, shh. Because
because literally everybody left us behind. So it was you, me, and like Wendy, and then I think Jenny. So it was just us. And everybody was already like heading towards the car. And so I was like screaming, Jackie's passing out. So that everyone would come back because I didn't know what to do. What am I going to do? Carry your ass back to the car? There was no way I was going to be able to do that. So I was freaking out. And then everyone was like, what's wrong? I was like, Jackie's passing out. And everyone started coming back.
So I'm passing out. I sit down on a bench. I don't know how I reached the bench. We reached the bench.
I sat you down.
She sat me down on a bench. And she was making a scene, and I was like, shut up.
She's like, just let me pass out.
I was like, people are staring. Just let me pass out. Like, I'll wake up and I'll be fine. Just chill.
She's literally fine.
Just like, I'm literally fine. Leave me alone. And yeah, so I'm like in and out of consciousness, and I feel like I can feel that she's slapping me. Like, I feel the motion of like my head is being moved, but I didn't feel it. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, it was numb. Like, I felt my head moving, but I didn't actually feel it. My vision was going in and out, and then I hear my cousin come, and she's like, I have an inhaler. Do you want it? And I was just like, sure. She gives the inhaler. She puts it in my mouth. Second, I hit the inhaler. I started seeing red, and then little by little, like, my vision cleared. And then I sat up. I looked at my shirt, and it was soaked. My shirt was soaked. And then like I looked at like my shorts, like my clothes were wet. It was like as if somebody had thrown a bucket of water on me.
I did throw water on you.
Oh, you did throw
on
water
your
on me.
face.
Okay, no, but it was like
you had really bad cold sweats.
And so I sat there and like my whole body felt numb. Like I just felt really hot and cold and I dizzy. I was so shaky. We sat there, I don't know for how long. How long were we there?
I don't even know. I felt like I didn't want to get up because I was scared that you were just going to collapse. So I made them wait a while.
Because, like, from the falls to the car, that's still, like, quite a ways to walk. Yeah, and the whole time, I was just thinking in my head, I was just like, the doctor said that this wasn't a big deal. I'm not an athlete. This wasn't supposed to happen. Holy crap, this is a lot more serious than I thought. Like, that's what the thoughts that were going through my head. I was like, I didn't think it was that bad. Like, I've done this before. I've done the 8-mile hike before. And also, I was really embarrassed. I was like, so many people just saw that. So many people just think that I'm incredibly out of shape. And at that point, the only person who knew what was actually going on was my dad. Nobody else knew.
And he still didn't say anything. I think it was that same day that you told us.
Well, we were walking back to the car, like, my aunts and everything were like, see, this is why you need to go to the gym. This is why you need to work out. So, like, this doesn't happen. Like, this isn't normal. You shouldn't be this out of shape and blah, blah, blah. And I was just kind of taking it because I wasn't actually listening to what they were saying. Because, again, my thoughts were like, holy crap. This is way more serious than I originally thought. My siblings were freaked out about what happened. And so when we got into the car, I think that's when I told you all what was going on. Probably. I don't remember really well, but I feel like that's where this storyline goes. We went back to my parents' house. Like, again, we were driving separate cars. So my mom was with her sisters. My dad was with them. And apparently, like, my aunt just was talking crap and was just like, she needs to work out more. She needs to do all of that. And, like, my dad got really upset. And even though he had told me not to say anything until after graduation, he just didn't like the fact that they were saying those things about me when he knew what was actually going on. And so my dad's like, it's not that she's out of shape, she's sick. And so my dad told him what happened. And he was like, you don't have to explain anything to them. I will deal with that. But you should have a conversation with your mom. My mom can be pretty annoying. She is your typical Mexican mother that believes that she can cure anything with the right teas, with the right remedios, and with Vaporu. And grandma being there, who believes exactly the same things, did not help. My mom was in denial. So when we got home and I had to explain to my mom what I knew, my mom was just quiet and she was like, no, you don't have that. You don't have it. I am telling you I do. I'm not gonna get to go to Peru. You need to come with me to the doctor because the doctor needs to talk to you. And my mom was like, nope, you don't have that. I don't have to go see the doctor because you don't have it. You don't have it. God wouldn't do that to you. You don't have it. And then my dad was just like, we're not gonna do this. She has this. So we can deal with this after her graduation because everybody's here. She was just quiet. I could see that she was teary-eyed, but she didn't want me to see her cry. So I was just like, okay, well, we can talk about this when everybody leaves. And I left.
You said, deuces.
I was like, all right, like, because it was already really hard on me. And I was like,
and mom reacting that way didn't help.
Yeah, mom reacting that way didn't help. I'm like, well, it's all nice that you believe that I don't have this, but I do. And some really real things are happening right now. And I can't explain all of this to you over and over again. Like, I'm like, we're not going to do that, Mom. I love you, but like, come on. We'll together.
She was mostly in denial because you had to tell her that it might be hereditary. You know, and so she was like, well, if you have it, then my other kids have it, and I can't go through that 3 other times. And
I think she was also like, nobody else has gone sick.
My mom doesn't have it.
No, nobody else is sick.
Because, like, our grandparents get tested every year.
And grandparents are super healthy. Holy crap.
I know.
We're not even halfway through this story. This is a really long story. I'll speed it up. From the rest of that time, I guess the only things that you should know is, like, my dad filled everybody in. Everybody decided to be respectful towards me and that it wasn't me getting diagnosed with this condition wasn't going to overshadow the fact that I was graduating from college. Everybody was, like, super respectful. We didn't talk about it because I wasn't ready to talk about it. And I just had, like, a normal graduation weekend and it was really fun. After that, I went back to the doctor, and when I explained to him what happened when I was hiking, he got really worried, and he was just like, you need to understand that you were incredibly lucky that day. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was just like, if your family would have listened to you and just let you pass out, you would have died. If you have another episode like that, where you actually pass out and there's nobody around to sit you up, your heart was stopping. That's why you were passing out, because your heart was giving out. And if you would have passed out and didn't receive a defibrillator shock within 4 minutes, your heart wouldn't have started again. And he was just like, and you were out in the middle of nowhere hiking, an ambulance wouldn't have gotten there for at least 20 minutes. You would have died.
It was like 30 minutes.
Yeah, he was like, you would have died. And I was just like, cool.
That's when I found out I was a hero.
So he was just like, all right, so this is a lot more serious than we thought. I'm a cardiologist, but I am not an expert in the condition that you have. So I need to send you over to some experts. I guess it's incredibly lucky that I live in Oregon because the leading researchers in my condition are at Oregon Health and Sciences University, which is located in Portland. Out of all the shitty things that have been happening to me, that was pretty lucky that literally the experts in my condition are in my state. So they sent me over up there. They were incredibly worried because somebody my age, even with my condition, it shouldn't be this serious the way that it was. So they felt that it was necessary for me to get a defibrillator. And so the following January, I got a defibrillator. Once I got the defibrillator, they were like, start going on about your normal activities like normal. And so at that time, I was getting really into weight training because I hate cardio. And now I knew why I hated cardio. But my doctor was like, you need to get some cardio in there because we need to see how your heart reacts to that. Because at that point, they had already put me on medication and they're like, your heart rate should be regulated. Like, it's still going to be pretty fast, but it's not going to be anywhere near as fast as it was. We encourage you to do some mild cardio just so we can see, because this thing is measuring your heartbeat. In case your heart rate gets too high, it will shock you and it'll bring it down. In case your heart rate gets too low, it'll pace you to get you back up. I was pretty freaked out once the doctor told me that like I would have died if I would have actually passed out. This was like a good like security thing. I was like, I'm indestructible. Whatever happens, it's gonna revive me, like whatever. So when I was going to the gym, I was going hard. Like I was doing a lot of weights. I was just like, I feel great. And one day, it was like the second day that I actually decided to do cardio. I'm like going on an elliptical. I'm vibing to like songs. I'm just like hella hyped. And I'm just like going really hard. I was really tired, but I was like, you know what? I have 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes left. And so I was just going really hard. And then out of nowhere, I felt like somebody came up behind me and just slammed my head with something. Like I was so disoriented. Like I looked around and I thought like, did somebody just hit me? Because my head felt so heavy. I was just like, did I just get hit? And it took me like 10 seconds of just being so disoriented. And then I like just looked down. I realized that my heart rate was so low. And I was just like, I just got shocked. And I was so scared. Oh my God. Like I can't describe the feeling. It just felt like I didn't even feel it all over my body. I felt it in my head. And I was just so disoriented. That's like, I was just disoriented. So I went and I sat down and I got my phone out and I instantly emailed my doctor. I just got shocked. I'm really scared. What do I do? It was like 8 p.m. on a Saturday. The next day, which was like Sunday, my doctor calls me and he was like, you got shocked. I'm so sorry. We're looking at the monitors. Can you please come up here? We're gonna see what's going on. And so the next day I went up there. They looked at my monitor, moved the things up because my heart rate got all the way up to 190. And that's not normal. A normal heart shouldn't get up that high when you're doing mild cardio. They were freaked out. So now they moved it up to 200. So it wouldn't shock me. Then they upped my medications and they're like, you should be fine. I was not fine. I ended up getting shocked again one night when I was drinking, and I didn't actually know because I was not very kind to my body at that time because I didn't get to travel. I was going to graduate even later than I thought. I was not in the best mental state, so I used alcohol to cope, which was incredibly unhealthy. I know that, but
bad for your heart.
And really bad for my heart because alcohol accelerates your heartbeat. And I didn't know at the time. And even if my doctor told me, I didn't listen because, again, that was my only coping mechanism. And so one night I was really, really intoxicated and I got shocked. And I didn't know I got shocked until I went to my follow-up with my doctor and they're like, what were you doing Saturday night at 2 a.m.? And I was like, I don't know, probably blackout drunk. And they're like, you got shocked. So that was really scary to know that while me being incredibly drunk, my heart rate got up to 200. Again, not normal, right? And so they upped my defibrillator to 220. So since they upped it to 220, like my defibrillator has not shocked me. But again, it would be wild if my heart rate were to make it up that high when I am on medication that suppresses it. Even though I was on heavy medication to keep my heart rate low, it didn't work. It still got up that high. So now they were incredibly concerned. This isn't enough. Medication's not going to be enough for you. We need to do surgery. And that was a really hard pill for me to swallow. But at the same time, I was like, this is getting out of control. Like, it's been less than 6 months since I got diagnosed, and I'm just getting sicker and sicker, even with medication. And so I was like, okay, but my only thing is now we need to wait until after I graduate. So my graduation got pushed back because, like I said, like I was supposed to study abroad and then I was going to be done in fall. But because I couldn't study abroad, I now had to meet internship requirements. And so that took me longer than I anticipated, and I couldn't graduate until winter. And then when winter term was over, we were going to do it in April, but I think that the surgeon wasn't available, so we had to push it up until he was next available, which was July. Yeah, I don't remember a lot of what happened because, again, I was abusing alcohol at that time. Like, I was abusing alcohol because I really didn't know how to deal with everything. Like, I was just going through the motion. Like, I accepted it. I'm like, this is what's happening. There's nothing you can do to stop it. Who cares? Who are you going to talk to? Like, whatever you say, whatever you do, you're not going to get better. You are sick and you need to have this done. The thing that I do remember about that time is that's around the time that I started to get really into K-pop and really into BTS. You might think, like, why is she talking about BTS right now? But around that time, it was now 2018. It was the Love Yourself Tier album, and it was their Love Yourself era. It really helped me work through a lot of things because their whole message at the time was like, you need to be kind to yourself and you need to be able to look past all of the mistakes that you have made and allow yourself to grow from that. That was literally what I needed to hear at that time because, again, I was severely abusing alcohol. I had this mountain of things being thrown at me. I was graduating late, being told that I had to have surgery. Like, it was a really, really low point in my life. And then I found these 7 wonderful boys telling me that it was okay and telling me that it's okay to make mistakes as long as you allow yourself to grow from them. And I was like, you know what? Yes, that's exactly what I needed to hear. I love you guys so much. And I started to really accept what was happening in not a toxic way. Instead of sitting in the waiting rooms being so angry that I was the youngest person in that cardiology office, being super angry that this was happening to me, I would just sit on my phone and look at BTS videos and just laugh. And just be like, oh my god, like Jin is so adorable. Oh my god, I love Yoongi. It became such a healthy way to cope. But then we finally got to my surgery day, and again, everybody came. Everybody showed up. It was just like my graduation all over again. It was now a year later. Everybody showed up and it was my surgery day. It felt really surreal. I didn't actually feel like it was my surgery day. Like, I had to be there at 5 a.m. And like my surgery wasn't until like freaking 10 a.m. but I had to be there 5 hours earlier, and I couldn't eat or drink anything, which was really hard. Like, when you can't even drink water. And it was a summer. It was hot. It was so hot, and I couldn't drink anything that day. I was scared, you know, obviously, because my surgery was supposed to last 6 hours, and up until like surgery day, I hadn't processed it. It was until I was like in my bed in my gurney, and my surgeon, he came up to me and he was like, reading me the risks, that I was just like, oh my god, it's happening. Oh my god, it's happening. And I started to get really anxious when they were rolling me out. Like, my family was so chill. They kept it together. Like, especially my mom and dad, they kept it together up until anesthesiologists started rolling me out. As soon as they started rolling me out, my mom lost it, and my mom started crying like really bad, and then I started crying because like it gave me an anxiety attack. Just seeing her bawling like that gave me an anxiety attack, and then the nurses were like, no, she needs to get out because she's making her nervous. She needed to get out because they had just put the anesthesia in me, and so I couldn't be having an anxiety attack right before, like that was gonna be no. And so as they're rolling me out, there's these 3 doctors that are with me, and they all just start like joking around with me, and it was so cute. They just started banter between them, and it was so adorable because like it went from like me having a complete anxiety attack to me just like calming down instantly and like laughing with them. Like, when they wheeled me into the surgery room, it was not super fancy. I was just like, I thought this was gonna look like Grey's Anatomy, you know, with like stainless steel everywhere. I'm like, why are there cabinets in here? And there was just like a small bed. I thought it was gonna be like a big one. And they wheeled me next to it. And they're like, okay, get onto the other bed. And I was like,
you're not gonna carry
are
me?
y'all gonna lift me and put me onto this bed? Because the anesthesia was hitting me. Like, I was just like, they're like, can you please go onto that bed? I was like, I don't know. They're like, try, honey. And I was like, okay. And like I tried and I laid down. And then they put the light in my head, on my face, and they're like, okay, we're gonna start counting back. You're gonna start to feel tired, okay? Count back with us until you fall asleep. And I was like, great. And they said 100, 99, 98, and I was out.
Dude, once they wheeled you out, we all just started crying. Like, because me, mom, and dad were all walking, and then grandma had to go get mom because mom was literally gonna like pass out. She was crying so hard. And I was crying because you were crying, so I was like, I ain't never seen you cry like that. And my dad was crying, so I was just like,
they gave me an anxiety attack.
They gave me an anxiety attack too. And I wasn't the one getting surgery. And when we walked out, everyone just saw us all crying and hugging each other. And then they all started crying too.
All these Mexicans in the waiting room just cried.
It was like 15 or 20 of us.
There was so many of you.
Like,
yeah, the next thing I remember is waking up. My eyes wouldn't open because I was under like heavy anesthesia, but I was like conscious. And I can hear the nurse. Technology is crazy. Like they knew exactly what time I was gonna wake up. Like the nurse was like in the room and she was like, don't freak out. There's a tube in your mouth. It's your breathing tube. You have to cough so I can get it out. She's like, if you start freaking out, you're gonna choke. So just cough with me and we'll pull it out. I hadn't noticed. I was still unconscious, and the second she said tube, I could feel it. Like there was a tube all the way in my mouth and I could just feel my mouth open. And she's like, can you please cough? And I tried to go, but I had no strength. Like no strength. I could not. And I started freaking out. And she's like, don't freak out, please don't freak out. I started panicking. She runs out of the room. She runs out of the room to go get a doctor because I started panicking. I was like, don't leave me. And I started choking on it. I was freaking out. And then this doctor just runs into the room and he just goes, and this tube just comes out of my mouth, and it was so long. It was such a long tube. It was longer than this water bottle. And I just go, and I passed out instantly. It was so traumatic. Like thinking about it now, that was literally the worst thing. Like them taking the tube out of my mouth. And I could hear the nurse the next time she came in. She was like, sorry, honey, apparently they put a tube that was too big for your throat. So that's why you were choking. That was just like... okay. And she's like, yeah, it wasn't your fault. I'm sorry. I kept making you cough. You couldn't because it was too big for your mouth. It was just like, cool.
I don't know how you kept it together.
I was under heavy anesthesia. You go through a surgery that intense and your body puffs up, which I didn't think. My body was...
fluids that they're pumping in here.
Yeah, my body was so swollen because your body is just like, what the hell is happening? Like, you just got sawed. What? Your body is just like, protect, start healing. So you puff up. I don't know why it didn't click when they told me that this surgery was happening. Like, they're sawing you in half, so you literally are gonna have no strength because your bones got cut. One of the first things they make you do the next day is you have to try to sit up on your own because you have to start building up your muscle again, or else like your healing is not gonna go well. They gave me this heart-shaped pillow and I had to hold on to it like this, and like the nurse was helping me and I had to sit up, and it was the most excruciating thing. Mind you, I am on heavy doses of morphine. And it hurt so much. Like, I had to roll on my side and then like go forward. And I was hugging this so hard because it hurt. It hurt so much. That's probably the worst part. Like the tube and trying to sit up. It was excruciatingly painful, but I had to do it or else I wasn't gonna heal. The other really traumatic thing that happened is like my doctor was doing his rounds. He came to check up on me and like the nurse like had forced me to get up and like sit on a different chair because you have to get your body moving. And I didn't know that. I literally thought that they were gonna have me just laying there for days. And like when she made me sit up literally like the next day, I was like, are you mad? Like,
get my doctor.
Like, why are you making me move? Do you not know that I just had surgery? And she was just like, you have to move. You have to get your... I was just like, no, I just want to lay here forever. And so I was sitting up and I was just chilling. I was eating a ton of Jell-O because that's what they give you. They give you a bunch of Jell-O. Also, my taste buds were gone. I couldn't taste anything. So like just... the Jell-O felt really good in my mouth, so I just like were swirling Jell-O in my mouth. And like the doctor comes up to me and he's like, how you doing? I was like, just look like crap, like pale, just sitting in a chair, gauze and like tubes hanging out of me. And then he was just like, well, you know, for somebody who just had surgery, you look pretty good. And I was like, thanks. He's like, do you feel nauseous? And the second he said, do you feel nauseous? I just started to feel so nauseous. He saw the instant where I was just chilling, and then I was just like, and he hands me a bag, and I throw up. And what I threw up was blood. It was just blood. And I looked at it and I started to panic, and he was like, that's normal. Your body just went through something really traumatic. That's why you have tubes if they're taking the blood out of you. And he was like, I am so sorry. I'm gonna stop talking to you, and I'm gonna let you lay down so you can go back to sleep.
You should show the scars that you have on there from the tubes.
From the tube? No. Oh. So they have, no, you can't see them. So I have these 2 scars right here. So they were tubes that were hanging out. Tubes were connected to my heart because my heart was seeping liquids because it had been cut open, and so they had them in there to get like the extra pus out. So I had like 2 like little bags. I had to like walk around with these things like dangling. They were painful to carry around because like if I just let them hang, like I could feel them like hanging up here. So I had bandages, so I didn't really see the scar until I left the hospital. So I was in the hospital for a total of 4 days. I asked if I could go home, which was a mistake because the hospital had nice AC and my house did not. Like, I should have stayed there longer, but it was a lot being in the hospital constantly because you constantly had to wake up, you were on a schedule, you had to be meds, and it was really, really depressing being in the hospital for that long. Like, my family would come visit, but I would just be sleeping because my sleeping schedule was completely messed up. I know that it sounds weird, but like to think back at it, like I had overhyped the pain in my head. Like I thought I wasn't gonna be able to get to move around. I thought I was gonna be bedridden for months, and like the second day they had me trying to sit up. By the third day they had me walking around the hallways because you need to build up your strength again. If you stay in bed, you're gonna get sicker. I was like, medicine is awesome. I was really impressed with my body, honestly. I was just like, wow, I'm so strong that I'm able to do this right now. There's a lot of things that really sucked after the surgery. The main thing is sleeping. Because I was under anesthesia for that long and because I used so much, my sleeping patterns got so messed up. That's the thing that's been messed up the longest. And the way that I sleep the most comfy is like on my belly and with my leg out. I couldn't do that. I couldn't sleep on my stomach anymore because my chest. I had to sleep sitting up for like the first 2 weeks. And because my sleep schedule was so messed up because of the hospital, I would only be able to sleep 2 to 3 hours a night. And the rest of the night I would just be awake in pain because I couldn't lay down all the way. And if I laid down on the way, I couldn't get up on my own, and I didn't want to keep waking people up. So I would just stay up the whole time because I couldn't sleep, and I couldn't even take naps during the day. Like that was the worst part, not being able to sleep, because I do not function when I do not get enough sleep. My scar didn't actually form right away. When I first took my bandages off, it was just a line. And I was on it. It was so dumb. I was like, oh, I'm not even gonna get a scar. I'm going through all of this and I'm gonna have nothing to show for it. It's just a line. That's so weak. And I regret thinking that way because I'm like, oh, I played myself. Because like, it's so big now. It's so big. But like when I saw it, it just looked like a paper cut. Like it just looked like a straight line down. And I was like,
it looked gross because they have like super glued it.
It slowly started to like form this. I've been told that over the years it's gonna get smaller, but I don't know. I can't tell. It looks the same. Fade. So that's the story leading up to my surgery and a little bit of what happened afterwards. It was really hard for me to talk about it.
Up until recently.
Yeah, it was really hard for me to talk about it up until recently because I was really angry that it happened in the first place. Because every time I would go to a cardiologist office, every time that I would go to a doctor's appointment, I would always be the youngest person in the room. I would catch myself like throwing pity parties over myself because like after surgery happened and after like everybody went home and everybody stopped constantly checking up on me, I was super angry at everybody because I was like, how come they get to go on and have regular summers and get to go out drinking and get to go out partying and get to like keep going to the gym and just get to go on living their lives as if nothing happened, and I am stuck here healing. I knew that I was being childish about it because I'm like, what do you expect? Like, this didn't happen to them. People can't put their lives on pause for you. And I knew that, but I was just angry that it happened to me. And my condition is a genetic mutation. So nobody else in my family had it. Like everybody got tested, nobody else has it. Why did it happen to me? My friends were out they were going to concerts, they were doing all of that, and I was just sitting at home seeing their Snapchat stories. Obviously, like, they would check up on me, obviously they would go visit me, they would do all of that, but at the same time I was just jealous that they got to keep living their lives and I didn't. Once I was able to like go out and do all those things, I just pretended that I never felt those feelings, and I didn't like anybody asking me about it, because then I would have to relive those angry feelings that I had. Didn't really take time to like process, like, hey, like, it's okay to that you were upset, like, it's okay that you felt all those negative feelings because you weren't in a good place, and that's okay. What happened to you was really scary and it was unfair, but you're still here, and you're here because of it. It really took me being on TikTok and me showing off my scar to a bunch of people for me to actually process what happened, because the second I started posting videos on TikTok, and I wear shirts like this all the time, people started noticing my scar and they started asking about it, saying, oh my god, this is the first time I've seen somebody with the same scar that I have. I started having conversations with people who've also had surgeries at a young age, and it really brought things into perspective. And there was this one person that I had a conversation with, and she is 16 years old and she's had 5 heart surgeries so far. And I said, oh my god, I'm so sorry that you've had to go through that. And she responded with, don't be. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here today. And oh my god, when she said that, I literally started crying. And I was like, I hadn't thought about it that way. That brought it into perspective, because I was like, you're right. If I didn't have access to adequate healthcare, I wouldn't be here today. And I should be thankful for that, and I shouldn't be angry. It helped me heal, and it helped me get to the point where I am today, where I can sit down and tell you all the story of how I got the scar. So yeah, that's the story about how I got my surgery and how I dealt with it. And I just wanted to recognize all of the growth that I've had since it happened and how far I've come in my process. Like, my health isn't where I want it to be yet, but I've come a damn long way, and I've made really good progress in how I deal with things. And so I'm really proud of myself. And so I finally felt strong enough to actually sit down and describe everything I felt and everything that happened and how it happened.
I think I just want to say thank you for supporting you, for everybody who's supporting you on TikTok, because I have seen how much comfort it has brought you.
You never know what somebody else is going through, and just because somebody might be putting on a front that everything's fine, it might not be fine. So just remember to always be kind to people, because you never know what they could be going through. And just thank you so much for showing me so much support and really helping me through something really difficult. So I really appreciate all of you all. I just wanted to share all the growth that I've made, because I'm really proud and I'm really thankful for you all for helping me to get to where I am. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.